Hello everyone, today's poem is 和张仆射塞下曲.其三 by Lu Lun. Lu Lun was the top poet in the Mid-Tang period. The Civil War has passed for 10 years, 20 years. Anyhow, in reality, the wars never ended. The local authorities or the generals in different places, they came up against the emperor or the Tang Empire from time to time, and the emperor was driven out of the capital, Chang'an City, once, and was almost killed by that group of rebellions. Basically, they are the former troops of the Tang Empire. So you can imagine the political life, the life of the average families is quite miserable. Of course, that was reflected in the poetry of the time. There was so-called 10 elite poets of the time, 大力十才子, but basically their poems didn't appreciate much by the later generations, by today's people, but this one, Lu Lun. So he was quite different. A lot of people said by reading his poem, we feel the most prosperous town, the spirits of the most prosperous town, rather than the very poor, negative late Tang period. The majority of the poets of the time, their content is about the personal feelings, or to be a hermit, because he can do nothing to help the countries, to help the peoples. And gradually everybody became very negative or conservative, and they limited their life, their feelings, to their personal things. The poet Lu Lun, actually he know what it is like in the prosperous Tang time. He attended the imperial exam before the Civil War started. Anyhow, he didn't pass it. During the Civil War, he fled to the South China, to the Hubei province, Hunan province, and after the Civil War, he back to the capital city, Chang'an again, and continued his endeavor on the imperial exam. Anyhow, he has no result as still. He was a very socialized person, so he made friends with all kinds of people. Most of them are the celebrities, the nobles, the high-ranking officials, and finally, he was awarded a position in the army by one of his friends, Hun Jian. Hun Jian was the guy who saved the life of the emperor of the time from a very serious rebellion, and he was brave, smart. He won a lot of the victories. Well, we can see that in this poem. And this poem was written during the time he served for this general, Hun Jian, and all the spirits and the situations reflected is the army, the spirits of Hun Jian as well. This poem is the third poem right in a row when he served in the army, and this poem also a very good comparison to another same title poems wrote by Xu Hun. You can compare the different spirits reflected, and you can regard it as the most prosperous Tang time spirits versus the late Tang period. 和张仆射塞下曲其三，卢纶。月黑雁飞高，单于夜遁逃。欲将轻骑逐，大雪满弓刀。The title tells us these 6 poems is a reply to his colleague Zhang Pu She. Zhang is the family name. Pu She is the position's title. So Mr. Zhang or Zhang Pu She wrote a poem titled with 塞下曲, and Lu Lun wrote 6 poems back as a reply to him. So basically, the reply poems is with the same title, 塞下曲. 塞下曲 is a borrowed title from the Han Dynasty's musical department poetry. So basically, it's about frontier things, about the wars. Okay, let's look at the poem. A very simple poem. 月黑雁飞高. The moon is black and the big swan is flying high. 单于夜遁逃. 单于 is the name for the king of the nomad people. In the Tang Dynasty, they always use that term, special term, to call the king of the nomad people in the North China, in the Northwest China. So basically, they are always the enemies of the Tang Empire. So the whole sentence means the king of the nomad people, or our enemy, the head of our enemy, they are running away in the night. 欲将轻骑逐. So from this sentence, the poet changed to another angle. He take himself as the general, as the soldiers. So I want to hunt those enemies, the king of the nomad, with swift horses. 欲将, be careful, it reads as false tone. So here it means to lead the soldiers, to lead the army. So from here, from this word, we know the poet was writing on behalf or take himself as a general. I'm going to lead my swift horses to hunt the king of the nomad. 大雪满弓刀. The big snow, the heavy snow covered the bow, covered the sword all over. So we know it's a snowing night. The heavy snow explained the first sentence, 月黑, the black moon. It's a snowing night. You would never see the moon, right? Wow, wait. How do you know the big swan is flying high? It's a very, very dark night, right? A second thought is quite sure. The poet knows the big swan flying high by its chirp, the sound of its chirp. But why the swan flying high in a dark night? The second sentence explained that someone disturbed the big swine. Normally, the animals, birds, all sleep, rest in the dark night. But the enemy troops, they are flying in the dark night, and they disturbed the herd of the big swines, and then the swine fly high. So there's so many things you should or you had to imagine to make a full picture, and also to make all these very specific pictures or snapshots have their reasons. That's very vivid and real things happened in the battlefield in that dark night. A third thought, why the Chanyu, the king of the nomad or the enemies, they were fleeing in such a dark, snowy night. Though the background in the ancient time is everything happened in the daytime, the battles, the army marches, they move locations, everything happened in the daytime, never battles or moves in the dark night. So we may guess that the king of the nomad, Chanyu, he felt helpless. He felt the doomed defeat by the Tang troops, and that defeat, that failure may come at any time, any minute. He should run away as soon as possible, as far as he could. And on the other hand, we can also feel the high spirits, the powerful Tang troop it is. It's a heavy snowing night, and the Tang troops was so alert. They feels everything, any changes of the enemies. When the enemy, they are running away in such a dark night, they have the information, they know the status very completely, and then they very quickly decided to, or even with no time, they decided to hunt those enemies on the run. The most wonderful writing comes with the fourth sentence. The general, the soldiers, the horses, the weapons, they all were all covered by the heavy snow. And then the poet just stopped here at this moment. We even don't know if they went out of the blockage castle to chase the enemies. We don't know if they chase down those enemies and how the fighting, the battles with them it is. We have no idea at all. So that's is one of the best writing techniques applied in this poem. Never write everything on the paper in the poem. Leave some space for the readers to imagine, to think about it. So with all the high spirits, the powerful Tang troops, what do you think of in that dark, snowing night? And what's the result of it? 大雪满弓刀. Just imagine from this point of time. Okay, that's for today. I hope you can feel the positive, the strong mind, and the confidence of the Tang people. Of course, that belongs to the most prosperous Tang time. And also, you have some idea of the writing technique, 言无尽意, never write everything on the paper. Bye-bye.